Hey guys, it's Alyssa, the hopeless romantic redhead.
And I'm Danielle, the whodunit detective.
And welcome to Main Character Syndrome. If you feel like you are the main character in your life, you are in the right place. All right, guys, we are in a deep dive of Assassin's Blade, the prequel to Throne of Glass. And we've had a lot of fun so far watching Celaena in her journey before. This is pre-Endovier.
Yeah, pre-Endovier. And I will say, I'm going to compare this to Onyx Storm right now, where I really liked Onyx Storm because it was jumping around to like new locations. And so I really like that about this book is that we go to a bunch of different places all in the same book. And so I
Mhm.
thought that was fun.
We like get out of Rifthold while we're still in Rifthold, if that makes any sense. Like we're out of the glass castle, so that's kind of a nice scenery change.
Yeah. And we're about to head to the Red Desert.
Yes, yep.
So
Celaena is sent to the Red Desert as punishment for freeing the slaves at Skulls Bay.
yeah. So we've already done an episode on part one, part two of Assassin's Blade. So if you haven't read those yet, go back, read the book, and listen to that episode and jump into part three with us now, where we jump into the assassin and the desert. And
Yep.
chapter one starts off strong. So we are with Celaena and a nomad who is guiding Celaena kind of through the desert to the silent assassins there that are in the Red Desert. And they're traveling. And then he all of a sudden is like, I'm leaving you. Goodbye. You have 2 miles left. It's that way. And she's like, what? And he's like, I'm not going any further because he's scared of them. So that's kind of funny. And then she ends up arriving hours later. So for some reason, it ends up taking her hours to walk 2 miles, which shouldn't take you that long. Um,
No,
but
not
it
at all.
but it does for some reason, which we really don't know why it ends up taking her that long. And immediately she gets there to the their place, she's taken to what they call the Mute Master. So kind of like the head of the Red Desert Guild is, I guess, what I'll call them there. He doesn't speak, and so he's mute. And her punishment when she goes there by Arabin is she is not allowed to hide her identity. So no mask. She must use her real name, and she's kind of just like quote unquote exposed.
Hmm.
So this like really hurts her pride because she prides herself on being so secretive, and she must train and return with a letter of approval from the master there. And she is kind of talking quote unquote to the master from Eelway, who just kind of motions and stuff. And she is looking at him, assessing him, and she's like, oh, he might be from Eelway, which, if you're familiar with the other books, book one and book two, Throne of Glass, and Crown of Midnight, we know that Eelway is where the princess is from, Princess Nehemia. So I don't know if that'll come back up, but she does mention that she thinks he may be from Eelway. We'll see.
Hmm.
Just a little theory. Or from
Yeah,
other.
the mute master, the silent assassins are mute because they took this vow of silence.
Hmm.
So a lot of these characters don't speak and they only use like gestures. So the mute master mostly just like gestures towards Lena and like drives her nuts.
Yeah. And so
So
he ends up, motioning to her kind of, and all of a sudden he like smiles and snaps his fingers, and four men immediately charge at Celaena.
yeah. So she's like, huh? And then all of a sudden she's just thrown into battle. So, chapter two, Selena is fighting all four men unarmed, and she wins despite being exhausted and dehydrated from her journey because she can tell she's being tested. This is like her first test at the Silent Assassins Guild. We then meet Ansel of Briarcliff. She is described as the most beautiful woman Selena has ever seen, with wine red hair. I know, us
Don't you
redheads,
love
we're
that?
just so stunning. She is her new roommate. They study each other, and Ansel says she thought the great Celaena Sardothien would be more dramatic. I'm sorry, more dramatic?
Ouch.
Celaena's pretty dramatic, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Celaena says, sorry to disappoint. The two chat, and we find out Ansel was 13 when she came to the fortress. She is now 18. We also find that Ansel has never been personally trained by the mute master, and she's bitter about this. Ansel is from Briarcliff, which is located in the Flatlands, formerly known as the Witch Kingdom. Where did we hear about the Witch Kingdom? Crown of Midnight. She was sent to the fortress by her father. Remember this, this is important. Celaena then fawns over Ansel's armor and finds the woman got it made before coming to the fortress. The sword is her father's. Celaena takes a bath while trying to hide her bruises, and she then starts thinking about how she got them as she simmers in anger and sadness as she wonders about Sam. So, as we know, she got them from Arabin, which is great guy. The next day, Celaena is rifling through Ansel's wardrobe, noting she doesn't have much for the 5 years she's been there. She thinks about Rifthold and the night she was beaten. She had never seen Arabin so angry. Sam tries to cut in, saying it wasn't her fault. They both thought the slave trade was wrong. Arabin then says not to lie to him and that he only got pulled in because she was the one who planned it. So, right there,
True.
Arabin already knows that Celaena can get Sam to do anything and that Celaena is kind of like kryptonite for Sam. Celaena is beaten to a pulp while Sam is held down and forced to watch. He is screaming at Arabin, but she can't quite focus enough to understand what he said.
Then we jump to chapter 3, and Celena's living here now, and Ansel is walking her to dinner. They're sitting there at dinner, and Ansel mentions a man named Lord Barrick, who she calls their local villain who wants to kill them all. And he's the Lord who rules over the city of Xandria. And he claims that all of that land is his and that the keep is also his land. So he kind of owns where they live as well. And he wants to kill all of the silent assassins to get in good graces with the king. And he wants to do that by killing them all and giving the king the master's head. And Lord Beric is described as being brutal and cruel. And then we learn and are introduced to a guy named Mikhail. He is a friend of Ansel's and says Ansel knows firsthand about the cruelty because she's met Lord Beric. The master sends her to negotiate between the assassins and Beric and his army. Ansel and Mikhail talk about how they actually want to stay there at their silent assassins keep and not be sold to other dignitaries who come there and kind of like Arabin, kind of purchase the assassins for different jobs. And then all of a sudden they're there at the dinner table, and this reminded me of like a Twilight moment where Celaena's like, and she sees this man looking at her, and Ansel's like, "Oh, that's the master's son." Apparently, we learn that he never notices any women, but he has his eye on Celaena. And then all of a sudden, Celaena just starts thinking about how desirable Sam is. And she kind of can't take her eyes off of Sam, even as this very attractive man keeps eyeing her. So Mikhail, he's asked if she deserved the beating that she got because she can't hide the bruises all over her face, and he's kind of just bold enough to ask. And then she says, "Well, it depends who you ask. If you asked the slaves I saved, then no, I didn't deserve this."
Yeah. And
And
in their
then
line
we
of work, he sees bruises all the time. So he's like, how'd you get that?
Yeah, right. And then this is kind of a really long chapter with a bunch of different things happening. So we jump to a different scene where now later on in the day, Celaena and Ansel are training, and Ansel's like, well, we're just gonna run a casual 3 miles to this oasis, pick up a bunch of pails of water, and then run back with all of these pails of water. So, just a mere 6 miles total. And she's like, "What? We're not training with the master." And she's super frustrated. But, she has to prove herself before she can train with the master. And
This
once
is
again,
again where Celena's arrogance really shows because she's like, I don't have to do that. I'm the best. Like, why
yeah.
aren't I training with the master?
Yeah, I came here to be with you guys, so like you guys should be excited that I'm here,
Mhm.
kind of. And so she's just like so frustrated about this. And once again, Ansel's never trained with the master, and she's been there for years. So Selena's also like this, like, I only have a month or so here. I can't remember exactly how long. Maybe three
Yeah, I
months.
think a month is right.
Yeah. But like 3 months total, she was gone, including travel. I think that was. But she's like, I have a month to get this done. And so she's kind of freaking out a little bit. And then Ansel kind of jokingly says, well, like, oh, we all have our own secret agenda. And it's just so important. Ansel says all of these like weird little things like this that I think are kind of important to note throughout the book, where you're like, it's kind of a weird thing to say.
She's a tad shifty.
Yeah. And I will say, after she jokes about this, and like she has kind of a joking person in general, it reminded me totally of the show Wednesday on Netflix, where you have like the happy personality and like the total like meh.
Oh yeah, Grumpy Sunshine dynamics are so fun.
Yeah, I love that about this part of the book. And then Selena only makes it 1 mile before she starts slowing down and she can't do it anymore. She's like, "Oh,
This is also like, where have we seen this before? We saw this in Throne of Glass when she was training with Kale. Like, she couldn't run to save her life. But
yeah,
then her excuse was she was malnourished and dehydrated and just out of shape from being in Endovier, the slave mines, for a year. What's her excuse now? She can't run a mile?
yeah, right." I mean, she is in the desert. It is hot. I'll give her that. But like, still, girl.
I guess, but you're like the world-class assassin that you are. You should be like chasing perpetrators down the street.
Yeah. So her hustle's not there. Her ego needs to be checked. And
It's
so I
through the
will
roof.
say that was kind of a good thing about her going to the Red Desert here and Arabin sending her here. I'm like, yeah, you need a reality check, girlfriend.
This is good for character development for her, and we can talk about that.
Yeah. So she only makes it a mile, and then later on in the chapter, they're back at dinner again or something, and Selena then sees Mikhail and Ansel trying to hold hands underneath the table, so they're like a little thing. And then she sees the master begin to leave the hall, and she like starts charging after him, wanting to confront him, being like, "Why aren't you training me? Train me." And she's trying to act, instead of talking to him, to try to be respectful because he is mute. And then she ends up saying that she like wants to work with him, and he motions for her to wait. So as she's going to follow the master, who's like walking away again, Ilias, who is the son of the master, who we talked about earlier, halts her. He like shows up and is like, no, he's leaving. You're good. Ilias is also mute. And she's immediately like, okay, he must not trust me. And he's just trying to protect his father from me because she's an outsider. And then she starts to like think that her and him are very similar together. Um, and then Ansel kind of comforts Selena. It's like, tomorrow will be better. And you can see like this friendship, this bond growing between her and Ansel, Selena and Ansel. And then Ansel kind of confides in her that her and Mikhail have been together since she was 15. And we learn that he's in his mid 20s. So it's like pretty
Mhm.
gross. But then we also learn that flatland girls, like where she's from, are actually typically married at 14, which is also disturbing.
Well, and that kind of coincides with like medieval times too. I mean, people
Yeah.
married their cousins to keep the bloodline alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. This,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this kind of setting reminds me of like medieval times.
Like Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Game of Thrones, literally. All right, chapter 4. Selena gets better at running and adjusts to her life with the silent assassins. though she's wary because she's used to cutthroat competition and mistrust, while these people share skills and have a sense of camaraderie, which she's not used to. One night, the fortress is under attack by a man named Lord Barrick. Where did we learn that? Ansel. Ansel tells her to shoot flaming arrows to scare them off, not to kill, creating a wall of fire. Later, Ansel receives a visit from Mikhail, along with orders for her to travel to Xandria and ask Celaena to come along.
So in the next chapter, they're traveling to Xandria, and we learn that the Flatlands, which are Ansel's home, used to be a part of the Witch Kingdom. And she kind of goes into that story where they're traveling there and Ansel's getting into her history. And she says that, the Flatlands are cursed. They're cursed um, because of this big kind of war almost that happened where her land used to be ruled by the Kraken clan. We've heard that before in Crown of Midnight. And they were overthrown by the Iron Teeth clan. The Kraken then cursed the land not to be fertile for the Iron Teeth clan. And then she goes into telling a story of seeing witches. And in her hometown, there was apparently a watchtower with an archway underneath it. This reminded me of the clock tower at in Otterland at the castle.
Mm-hmm.
I almost wondered if there was like a bit of a connection there. So there's a watchtower that had an archway under. Someone told them as children, if you looked through that arch on summer solstice, you could see into another world. And that's where I kind of drew that comparison. And Ansel, her older sister, and her older sister's friend went to this area, and Ansel was too scared to go inside the watchtower and to the arch, and all of a sudden her sister comes running out, but not her sister's friend. And apparently they went inside and then they saw a door kind of leading to the interior of the tower, and an old woman with yellow teeth was there and grabbed the friend. And then a mob went there to find the young girl and the witch, but they didn't find them, either of them. And then they just found bones that had been picked clean. And so Ansel's like, the witch killed her friend. We feel terrible. My older sister feels terrible. And Ansel then's like, the only way to kill a witch is to cut her head off,
Where did we
which,
hear that?
yeah, we learned about that in Crown of Midnight.
Mm-hmm.
And Ansel tells this story. And Celaena thinks about it in Crown of Midnight when she's talking to Dorian and Chaol, and they're there at the carnival. But she also says, Ansel, that if she had an army of her own, she would hunt down all of those witches and cut their heads off. Ansel then vents to Celaena, complaining about these silent assassins, saying that they don't do any good work, that they just sell themselves out to foreign lands, and that if she had an army, that she would protect the flatlands. And Ansel goes then into the palace by herself as they've arrived in Xandria. And she goes to talk to Barrick and do these negotiations. And then she tells Celaena not to come in and that Celaena can just stay in the city and go shopping.
Reading
So
this
then,
again, this is really suspicious.
yeah, right? Like, why do you have to go in by yourself? And she's like, oh, like it's the master's business. So,
Yeah.
like, you're not one of us, kind of. So it's like a little weird, but she justifies it kind of well. But, like you mentioned, there's like this sense of camaraderie between all
Mm-hmm.
of them. So you think that it wouldn't be a problem.
Right. There's
But,
like no secrets between them.
but she does, and she's walking through the city and she's going to all of these vendors and she finds a vendor selling spider silk. And we learn that these spiders live in the Rune Mountains, and this spider silk is very rare and very expensive.
Mind
And
you, these Stygian spiders are as big as a horse. So
Yes.
think of like the Harry Potter scene where they're seeing like all these spiders in the woods. Those are what I would think of Stygian spiders.
That's exactly what I pictured too.
Yeah.
So there are legends that people who have spider silk and who sell it basically trade it for either human flesh or for years of life, and dreams. And this man has a bunch of it. And we learn that this man went into the forest and got the silk himself. The man asks Celaena her age, and she tells him, and he's like, "Oh, we're similar in age." And she's like, "What? You look old." And he's 25, but he looks like he's 40. And he says that everything comes with a price. So he obviously paid for the silk with years of his life. The only way to receive the 20 years of his life back taken from him by the spiders is for that spider to die. He learned that when he met a witch who told them that. And the witch also said that a great warrior only could slay one of these spiders. And then the seller says that he's heard from the palace guards that, quote unquote, strange dealings go on between the assassins and Barrick. So another red flag waving. And
Hmm.
there's so much foreshadowing in this chapter. It's like insane.
There's so much foreshadowing in this entire book that I'm just like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just made that note. I was just like, oh my gosh, like, because I read these books twice for our podcast, like once
Mhm.
through, and then I go in and I take all of these notes. And so I was just like, gosh, reading this back again, I'm just like, red
Well, you
flag,
catch
red flag.
things. You catch more things. Like Sarah J. Maas is quite the genius when it comes to parallels and foreshadowing. It's really fun to like be on this ride.
Yeah. So then this man asks her to battle the spider for him. He just like gets the sense he like basically knows she's an assassin. It's like, you could do it. And then she tells him the next time he's in Rifthold to seek out Arab and Hommel, and he will be able to find her. And then, as like a remember me kind of thing, he gives her this small piece of spider silk for free. And then her and Ansel all of a sudden decide that they are going to steal two of Lord Barrick's Asterian stallions to
Remember
get
this
back.
from, I think it was a story she said in Throne of Glass.
Yep, telling Kale, no, it was Crown of Midnight, I think,
Was it
because
Crown of Midnight?
yeah, because Dorian gives Kale the Asterian stallion and for his birthday,
Oh, that's right.
and Selena's like, I had an Asterian stallion once. And
That's
you're
right.
like, what the hell? How did you get an Asterian stallion? This is like crazy expensive.
Well, this is the story of how that happened.
Yeah, which I kind
Chapter
of loved.
6. The girls stole the Asterian mares and are fleeing from the guards. Celaena is having a ball. Like she is having so much fun. She's feeling free. She's even laughing. This is how disturbed this poor girl is. Celaena realizes Ansel planned this the whole time. They go into a canyon and jump a ravine. And mind you, this ravine is like a death-defying jump that if her horse slipped even an inch, she'd be dead.
Yeah, they're being chased by Lord Barrick's guys.
Yeah, because they stole the horses.
Yeah.
So after they land safely and they finally realize that they're not dead, Celaena just punches Ansel so hard in the face she falls off the horse. And this is where I was like, I'd probably do the same thing.
Yeah.
Later, Celaena teaches Ansel about constellations and she talks about the Lord of the North. Ansel admits that she lied to the master when she came to train. Her father never sent her to train, and her supposed home does not exist. A man named Lord Locke, who claimed himself king of the Waste, took over. Ansel watched him kill her sister and father. She stumbled upon a witch when she ran away. The witch then pointed her toward the silent assassins. The Iron Teeth witch even helped her out. The sword she carries is the one that she hopes to kill the Lord with because it is her father's sword. They both swear they will make the men who have done horrible things in their life pay for it. This is a really like vulnerable chapter for Celaena and Ansel to talk about their traumas that they both experienced.
I mean, man, they like, I was just like, I love their friendship. Like
Hmm.
Celaena is finally like opening up and she's like her hard outer shell is breaking down and she feels it. It's just very obvious for the reader. And so more to come. Chapter
Hmm.
7, they have to meet the master for punishment for their stunt. And it's just another thing where Selena's like, crap, I get to get punished now. And then it's kind of like a PTSD moment for her where she all of a sudden is like, I remember being punished last time. And she finally can remember what Sam was screaming at Arabin while Arabin was beating Selena. And he was screaming, I'll kill you over and over again at Arabin for beating Selena. So then she's kind of back in her body and she realizes, like, this is bad. She apologizes and Ansel says that she can handle Barrick. She's like, I can handle Barrick. I've handled him for years. And then Selena takes the blame for stealing these horses. Ansel then says that their punishment could be stall duty to take care of these horses and animals. The master agrees to that, and then he's like, agrees to give Celaena lessons, which is like a big deal. And she's finally proved herself and kind of her loyalty, for basically, taking blame for something that really she was just an accomplice in and not the mastermind of. So then the master has an interesting way of teaching. He all of a sudden makes her open up a basket with a snake inside. And she's like, holy crap. And he motions around and he wants her to learn how to move like the snake and kind of learn the snake's patterns. And so then she learns how to move like a snake. She learns how to be silent like the bats next. She like stays with all of these bats and then she learns how to be still and swift like a jackrabbit. So she's like surrounded by all of these animals.
She doesn't quite understand it now, but when you look at like what she's learned here, it all comes together.
Yeah.
Chapter 8, Selena is giving Ansel a makeover for her birthday, and they are going to like this festival. This is like such a roomy moment where it's like, I'll do your hair, I'll do your makeup for the party tonight. At the
Hmm.
festival, Selena finds herself thinking about Sam while watching Ansel and Mikhail dance and thinks about what she would do to Arabin if he ever hurt him. Selena then bought her own apartment. It's revealed that she bought her own apartment so she can move out from the keep. At this time, Ilias asks her to dance. After multiple rejections, Selena finally says yes. They danced wild dances, not the usual waltz that used to dance before. She then leaves with Ilias after dancing all night long. Selena reveals she's never been kissed, mind you, she's 16, and wonders what he would say if he knew. He tries to kiss her, and she then rejects him embarrassingly. They part ways amicably, and she reveals it was Sam's face that was the reason she didn't kiss
Wait,
Ilias.
how old were you when you had your first kiss?
17?
17.
I know. I was a late bloomer.
No, I mean that's totally fine. I was in seventh grade and my grandmother saw.
Oh no,
How about that? It
that's so
was
funny.
like with my boyfriend and my mom had like set up this whole like nice little scene for things to happen and it was at my house but like in our backyard and yeah my grandmother like walked into the kitchen as like me and my boyfriend were about to kiss for the first time
Aw,
and my grandmother I didn't know but I found out afterwards my grandmother got to watch me have my first kiss.
that's kind of disturbing.
Kind of disturbing, yeah, but I'm really glad I didn't know that she was watching.
No kidding. I'm gonna
But
take that
it
back. I
was
was
just like it was just
16 when
like
I
a
had my first kiss.
it was just like a and I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was Selena's age when I had mine. So
Good for
not
you.
not uncommon, but definitely getting there. Because I mean, some people have their first kiss when they're like 12. I'm like, you're a
Mm,
baby.
yeah, that's a baby.
Anyways, the next day, Selena and Ansel talk about what it's like to be a girl that's been teased after being with guys. Who can relate to that? A lot of people. I mean, it's not called the walk of shame for nothing.
No, gosh.
It turns out we find Ansel is quite jealous that Celaena was trained by the master, and she says some biting words that, like, thinking she's not good enough, and Celaena is so great. Celaena then gives some tough love, telling her nobody but her will care if she saves her territory. I mean, it's mean, but true.
Yeah.
Ansel then calls her a spoiled, selfish bitch and then leaves. End chapter.
Yikes.
Where have we seen a moment like this before with her and Nehemia?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, hmm.
Hopefully, these
Well,
ones can be resolved. We'll see.
yeah. So in chapter 9, Celaena is in her lesson with the master and she kind of like opens up to him. The master, you know, gives her a situation where he can sense something is wrong and he opens the table for her to communicate with him and, let her heart out and let her wall down. And she told him that she's scared to go home. So when Sarah J. Maas is setting up this scene, you think that she's about to be like, "Oh, let me tell you about my fight with Ansel." And no, she's like, I'm scared to go home. She says that she feels like everything has changed in her life and everything has changed since she was beaten and punished by Arabin. And it's kind of like this really nice moment where Celaena opens up and she's so vulnerable and she's vulnerable with the master. And it's this nice moment between them, even though the master doesn't speak. And so then Celaena is back in her room, and Ansel is waking up Celaena, and it's actually the evening. And Ansel's apologizing to her, and they make amends. And Ansel seems like quirky. She seems like a bit nervous and not herself. And she's kind of like paranoid and like looking around. She shuts the door, and Celaena is like, kind of weird, but she doesn't like pick up on the cue that well because she then hands Celaena a goblet and it's like, cheers to amends and friendship. And the goblet's poisoned. And all of a sudden, Celaena blacks out. Like, girlfriend.
Yeah. I Selena should know poisons very well at this point. She's an assassin, and my God, she gets poisoned in each book, I swear.
I mean, literally, I'm like, ugh, like, shouldn't that be like Assassins 101? Don't get yourself poisoned?
Also, she's poisoned by Gloriella so many times. Wouldn't
Literally.
she know what it is by now?
Literally. Oh my gosh. She's just poisoned so much. It's insane. I mean, I'll give her grace in this. Like Ansel is like her closest friend. Like she does not have any friends.
That's
Any
fair, but she was
friends.
acting shifty.
Yeah. So like you should have picked up on those cues. You're an assassin.
Yeah, she should have known better. All right, chapter 10. Selena wakes up in the desert, confused and disoriented with a pounding headache, with her horse Casita next to her. She does have all of her belongings except her sword, and she's not happy about this. She also finds a piece of paper that was written by Ansel. The master is letting her go early with a letter of approval, and she gets to keep the horse that she stole. Selena wonders what she did wrong to be sent back so early, and we're also wondering that too.
Well, she kind of wonders if it's because of her conversation with the master earlier.
Hmm.
So we'll see.
Yeah, she's like, "Is did I do something wrong?" Which anyone would in that situation. She then sees Lord Beric's soldiers marching towards the assassin's fortress. Selena debates whether or not to warn the silent assassins about this attack, being she was just kind of thrown out. She starts getting suspicious, so she opens her letter of approval to find it blank, thinking Ansel sent her away and that she's actually a spy working for Lord Beric, hence the trip. She then gallops back to the fortress.
Whoa.
Yeah, everything that Ansel was doing now is like so sus.
Yeah, right? So all of those like red flags earlier
Hmm.
coming back together. Selena, I'm kind of like you're like supposed to be like the best assassin, but sometimes I don't know that you have a brain.
Well, she's also 16.
True.
We have to
True.
remember she's growing, but she's also been an assassin, I think, since she was 13.
Maybe younger.
Yeah, because it was what, 9 years of her
I
parents'
thought it was
death when
8.
she was 18?
I don't know.
So she
But
might have
it's
been. 9 or 10.
Yeah, I thought she was like 8 or 9, but
Yeah.
she's been there a long time. Anyways, chapter 11, Celaena get it together. She decides to go back and she rides all night long to try and get back to the fortress. And she arrives to a battle going on. And she notes that there was no forced entry into the fortress. And so the gates must have been left open. And she immediately is like, oh no, alarm's going off in her head. And she goes to find the master and she's questioning whether Ansel did this or not. And so she arrives to the master's quarters and she finds, hello, this was a plot twist, Mikhail dead.
I was so
Mikhail
mad
is,
with this.
I know, Mikhail's murdered. And then Ilias, the master's son, is severely injured there on the ground. Now, the master, he is on the ground too. He's drugged and motionless on the floor. So, what's that, Gloriella?
Hmm.
Right? Something like that. He's motionless, drugged on the floor, and Ansel is like right over him, about to cut his head off for Lord Barrick. And Celaena throws a knife and it lands in Ansel's arm because she doesn't want to kill her. That's her
Hmm.
friend. And she's doing this, we learn, Ansel, because Lord Barrick has promised her 1,000 men to march into the flatlands. Hello. She said this literally straight to Celaena's face that she
Hmm.
wants an army to protect the flatlands and get them back. And so it was her plan all along to steal those horses so that for the public's viewing that Lord Barrick had a good reason to come and attack the assassin's keep there. And it was once again her plan. Celaena is like trying to plead with her not to kill the master. And Celaena's like, I know what it feels like to feel this much anger. And she tries to talk her down off the ledge because she does not want to kill her. Ansel is like the closest friend that she has ever had. And Ansel is like, Celaena, like, join me. You can be my second in command at the Flatlands.
Join us on
And
the dark side.
yeah, right? Little Star Wars. And she declines, of course. And then Ansel immediately tries to kill her, and she cuts Celaena in the face.
Which is her, not her moneymaker, but she is prideful of her face.
She is like, I mean, she's beautiful. She's described as being beautiful. And so she now has like a cut on her face. And she also gets another cut on her neck, too. And I just found so much symbolism here. Celaena, she is literally, she's so destroyed inside. She is like, she's going through it. She has been betrayed by someone that she thought was like her close friend. And this is going to permanently change her. She's very arrogant, so I found so much symbolism in an injury to her face to kind of impact and symbolize like the pride to her ego,
Hmm.
or symbolize like the cut, I should say, to her pride and her ego. So
Hmm.
it's like, wow, this is permanently going to hurt her.
Yep.
And then it also really pisses her off. So then her and Ansel begin to tussle, and Celaena pins her down, and then the assassins win. And Celaena's like, you're done. Pack your things, and you need to run away now as fast as you can. And if you're not out of reach of this place in 20 minutes, I'm going to shoot an arrow. And if you're not far enough away, you're going to die.
Hmm. Yeah. Mind you, remember that she was going to give her 20 minutes.
20
So,
minutes.
chapter 12, Selena rushes to help Ilias because he's lying dead on the floor. Also, throwback to Mikhail. They had been dating for like 3 years since she was 15.
Yeah.
Ha-
And like sleeping together, and like they seemed like they had a good relationship, and she was
Yeah.
immediately like,
As
you're dead.
someone who was like struggling with talking with Selena, her friend, like, what about Mikhail?
Literally, I was like,
It was
that's
so
dark.
random.
So dark.
Anyways, Chapter 12, Celaena rushes to help Ilias. The master was given Gloriella, as we found out. It is like a paralytic poison, but not enough to kill him. She wanted him to be alive and feel his head being cut off, which is a little disturbing.
Yikes.
The paralytics are already wearing off, and the master signals her to know that her 20 minutes are up and she should get up on the roof. Celaena fires one arrow at Ansel and misses. Celaena kept her promise, but fired one arrow after 21 minutes.
And it
Remember, she said
barely missed
20,
her.
so she gave Ansel that extra minute to get away. And
And it
that is the only reason she got away because she would have hit her if she waited the 20 minutes. Later, Celaena meets with the master, who apparently talks now. Ilias is going to live. He reveals he knew about Ansel and was wondering what she would do about her fate since she had been there for 5 years. Said that Celaena was probably her only friend and will not forget what she did. This is very important as well. Celaena gets her recommendation letter, and the master gives her enough gold to pay her debt to Arabin and tell him that they don't abuse their disciples in the Red Desert. So Celaena just got her freedom.
got her freedom, and the Silent Master is like, yo, it's not cool to hurt people like that, and we don't
Mhm.
hurt our own people. So your master can. I was like, man, Selena, stay there. Just stay there.
Yep.
Ugh. So then
And
that was the
yeah, that is the end of the Red Desert chapter, or the Assassin in the Desert.
and now we're jumping into part four, which is the assassin and the underworld.
Yep.
And so we're back in Selena's home and things are about to change. So chapter one, she is back at the keep there and she's ready to pay Arabin back and move out. She's like, "You beat me, we're done. Like you were, I'm cutting you off now." And then she immediately walks into Arabin's office and he apologizes and apologizes and like it's like, oh, I've been praying to the goddess of forgiveness like every single day since I hurt you. And he gives her an emerald and gold brooch. And he gifts her then with a job to kill a man, Donovan, who is supposedly keeping documents with names of people who are opposed to the slave trade. And she is being hired by Donovan's ex-wife, who is apparently wanting to protect all of these people on the list who are against slavery. So it's kind of like oh, I was wrong to try and buy slaves. Like you were right here, you can go ahead and kill this man who wants to have more slavery. And so it's kind of like oh, like here's an olive branch to her.
This is
And
immediately suspicious to me because Arabin was just trying to buy 200 slaves.
yeah, right?
Nobody changes their attitude that quickly.
Right? And like there's so many red flags here. And he says he won't take any of the money earned from this mission, which is apparently a significant amount. And she's like, okay, well, I'll think about it. You know, it's normal. And then as she's leaving, she runs into Sam in the hall outside of Arabin's office. And he all of a sudden looks at her. He looks at her up and down. He sees the cut on her neck from Ansel. And then all of a sudden, we're introduced to this woman named Lysandra, who comes out and she's like, Sam, Sam. And she is a courtesan. And we learn that Arabin is helping Lysandra celebrate before her upcoming bidding for her virginity. Gross.
Yeah.
And Lysandra and Celaena hate each other, big enemies. And she's taunting Celaena, and Celaena starts to feel very jealous and is like, did she do stuff with Sam? Obviously not sex, but she's like, there are other things that they could have done. And she's like super mad jealous.
Yeah. So, for those wondering, a courtesan is basically a whore.
A
You're a
prostitute.
prostitute.
Yeah.
So, you have sex for money. You're in a brothel, you have a madam, like a pimp. It's the whole medieval
Yeah.
times. Um, Lysandra is actually one of my favorite characters in the series. It may
I'm
not look
sorry.
like it now.
What?
It
What?
may not look like it now, but she actually is.
No, that's That's literally mad to me. I made a note here and I was like, she better not come for Dorian in the future. I'm
Yeah.
like, Lysandra, you suck. So I'm very interested to see this character development now.
She has character growth herself, and you listen to her past or you read about her past, and then it all makes sense. But that is for the
Oh,
future.
wow.
All right, chapter two. Celaena receives two gold hair combs, seemingly from Arabin. So Arabin is kind of like the abusive ex-boyfriend or like the abusive husband, where it's like, I'm gonna beat you, but I'm gonna give you a gift and tell you I'm sorry, but I'm still gonna beat you again.
Facts.
Like,
Man.
we got a lot of domestic violence here. And she also, this is kind of like icky too. She can't decide if he's a father figure, a lover who never was a lover, or just some creep. You
Yeah.
know, I'm
Like,
gonna go on the creep side.
well, I went the father figure route. But like the terrible bad father figure.
Yeah, it was like the father figure who wasn't actually your father because he's very attracted to you and wants you for himself as his like plaything, and he like manipulates you. I don't know. I watched too many Lifetime movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what that reminded me of. This gift reminds her of luxuries that she's missed, and she realizes that she needs pampering after her time in the desert. Like, she looks at her cuticles and she's like, oh, hell no. So she gets her haircut and her nails done at her favorite salon, and she's ready to face the day. The convoy from Melisande has arrived. Celaena is in her head about Sam and Lysandra because she is mad jelly. Later, she goes to Arabin and then accepts the Donoval mission. The next morning, Celaena gets a state-of-the-art black suit designed for stealth and combat with hidden blade compartments, enhancing her skills as an assassin. Remember when Ansel had this suit?
Hmm.
I don't know if it's the exact same suit, but she had this like black suit that Celaena was admiring,
Yeah.
and
Celaena
Ansel
like
said she got
really
it
wanted
made.
something.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was like
really?
custom. So I don't know.
Oh,
It was just kind of a fun little parallel.
yeah.
Um, Then Arabin gives this to her as a gift, but says that Sam has to pay for it himself. So he's forcing Sam to buy this expensive as all expensive suit, basically, like a
Like,
ton of money for this.
is Arabin jealous that Celaena has feelings for Sam? Like, can
Big
he
time.
see that? And he's like, I'm jealous. Like, weird.
Big time. I think Arabin knows that Sam has feelings for Celaena, and he's mad jealous, but also trying to exploit that,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah, I think he has to know that Celaena has feelings for him too, that she hasn't maybe like really accepted yet.
Yeah, and that'll probably come. But speaking of, later, Celaena sees Sam and they fight about her deciding to forgive Arabin because he gives her gifts. So Sam is mad jealous at this point. She's very mean to the guys that she is like romantically interested in. So
Yeah,
it's like her love language is being a bitch. So
very
she
much.
says this mean stuff that she often does. And she's like alluding to a fun summer without her in his way. Sam reveals his price for forgiveness was Arabin's vow to never lay a hand on her again or harm her. Obviously, she feels very guilty at this point and awkward for saying such horrible things. So, in good old Celaena fashion, she dips. That night, she's getting ready for a spy mission at the theater and finds herself on a carriage ride with Arabin, Sam, and Lysandra.
So then in chapter 3, they go to the opera. Arabin, Lysandra, Sam are there, and she's watching Donovan from their box. And his ex-wife, who has hired her, is close by, and she acts like a friend to Donovan still. Supposedly, their divorce was very amicable, and so it's like, oh, whatever. And so Celaena and Sam they're there together and they kind of compliment each other. Sam's like, "You look beautiful." And she says it back to him. And we see like this really soft side of Celaena where she is like loving this show. She loves the theater, she loves the symphony, and she's so moved by the music and she starts crying. And Lysandra is kind of like picking on her and it's like, "Oh, I didn't know you had a heart." And Sam's like, "Shut up." And then Arabin's like, Sam. It's kind of like this whole family dynamic in a weird,
Mhm.
disgusting way.
Yeah.
And then right after, another party is thrown for Lysandra by Arabin at the keep. And Celaena's like, I'm not going to this party. I hate Lysandra. She skips and she goes to play the piano and she tries to play the music that brought her to tears from the show. And then Sam shows up and they kind of have this moment and they're talking and getting deep. And we learn that his punishment for freeing the slaves was basically having to watch Arabin beat the living daylight out of Celaena, in which he was yelling at Arabin, I'll kill you.
And
And
why
then,
would that be such a punishment that Arabin would think would affect Sam if he didn't know that Sam had feelings for her?
yeah. So then she is like, she's a little insecure. And it's definitely shown in this moment where she asks Sam if he wants Lysandra. And then he thinks she's kind of joking around. And so he starts to tease her a bit. And then she's like pissed off and she rubs Ilias in his face and is like, well, I had a good summer with another man, kind of, even though nothing happened.
Hmm.
And Sam's like, whoa, what? And then it's like this weird dynamic. And then she's like, oh, okay, well, Sam, I have this mission now. Like, do you want to help me take out Donovan? And Sam's like, oh, I missed you. And then she says, I missed you too.
Yeah, Selena has problem with talking with men
Toxic.
that she likes. Like
She's
I said,
toxic a little bit.
she's very toxic, she's mean, and she really like knows where to hit hard too.
Yeah, for sure.
Chapter 4, the next day, Selena and Sam have been staking out Donoval's house for the past 6 hours. They both snuggle up to each other for warmth in the freezing rain. Warmth. Okay. They find Donoval has higher security than most people and takes note of entrances and rooms like a good assassin does. Sam abruptly asks about the mute master's son, and then Selena's like, guilty, like the truth. She talks about the truth and says, nothing actually happened. Like, I was just being a butthead. Sam returns by saying nothing happened with Lysandra and never will. The two decided to stalk the bodyguard, and it's noted that the city sewers will be flushed out the next night, meaning the streets will be flooded with sewer water, and Celaena plans to be on high ground when that happens. In this moment, this seems specific and important because it was pointed
Mhm.
out. They follow the man to a tavern where he drinks a lot of alcohol and then went back to the house. A waste of a day, according to Celaena, and she's kind of like mad about it. Later, Celaena is getting ready for the party when she sees another gift, sheet music to the performance she saw the other night that she cried to. And it's not from Arabin this time, it is from Sam. Oh my God, this man.
What a sweetheart.
Not diamonds, not necklaces, not jewelry, like sheet music from your favorite musical.
This is why I'm like, you have to read this book first because you need to tear your heart open with this.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you need to just
It
rip you in the
hurts.
heart.
The end hurts. We'll get to that. Then at the party thrown by Donoval's former wife and Arabin's client, Leifer Bardingale, what a name. Selena notices how Donoval is getting cozy with the courtesans, and noting this, she splits from Sam to go find him by herself.
Donovan seems like a sleazebag.
He does.
Like you're gross, but you know,
Yeah.
whatever.
We'll talk about his character in a
Yeah.
bit.
So chapter 5, Selena then goes up to Donovan, who's with these courtesans, and she starts flirting with him. And she acts like she's someone else. She comes up with this completely different name, and she's like, "Oh, my uncle is sick. I wanted you to I wanted to introduce you to, and he's like admires you so much." And then she starts flashing some like really high-end names to try to lure him into her. And then it's like, "Oh, like will you come to the theater with us?" She like comes up with all these situations for them to meet, but she ends up inviting them to their theater box the day of the meeting that he's supposed to have with this other secret person who we don't know, where they exchange the papers, and this kind of deal is supposed to go down where she is supposed to like intervene and kill him and get these papers. And so in doing so, he ends up basically exposing when he's going to have this meeting to her. And then she's like, yay, great victory. And then her and Sam, they start dancing all night. And I love this chapter because it's 3 a.m. and all of a sudden, four men in noble masks enter the room. Hello, Dorian and Kale. Like, it's never confirmed, but it's 1000% Dorian and Kale and two other guards. And it's noted that this one guy has sapphire eyes. Anyways,
I
then
didn't even notice that.
really?
No, that went right over my head.
What? Oh my gosh. This is literally when Dorian and Celaena are first meeting.
Huh.
And and it's once again not confirmed, but anyways, said he has sapphire eyes. They're a noble mask, so I just assume. And then this sapphire eye man comes up to Selena and asks to dance with her. And she's like, she's on a high and she's having the best night of her life. And she's like, yeah, sure. And then all of a sudden, Sam jumps in and he's like, absolutely not, buddy.
Yeah.
And then she's kind of pissed off a little bit. And then Sam ends up saying that he cares about her and he like literally spills his heart out to her. And it's just like this very sweet moment between them. And then at the end of the night, she's at her new apartment, and it's noted that no one would think to find her at this place. So
Hmm.
that's how the night ends.
Chapter 6. After the party, Selena is focusing on training for a dangerous mission. She's hungover but pushes through, showing off her skills from the Red Desert. Sam is distracting her with no shirt, of course. Selena decides to then break into Donavel's house, and Sam can't go because he's on Lysandra duty. And Selena is jealous and mean again, as she tends to be in these situations. She is so mean to this poor guy
Yeah,
who's
she
like a
really
cinnamon
is.
roll. And
Puts
he's
him through the
like,
ringer.
I care about you. Like, I gave you sheet music. Stop being a bitch.
Hmm.
She then breaks into his house, into Donavel's house alone, and things seem to be going off without a hitch until things go horribly wrong when she, as an assassin, has that skill to tell her that someone's about to attack her.
So then it's chapter 7, and Selena's all of a sudden fighting all of these guards. And all of a sudden, something goes over her mouth, and she's kind of drugged and passes out. And she wakes up in the dang sewer,
Yep.
and she's tied up. And the guards are like, yeah, you haven't been conspicuous. We know that you've been spying on us for days.
Which, like,
And
Celaena, do better.
I know, right? I'm like, are you really that great of an assassin?
No kidding.
And they're like, so many thieves and assassins have tried to kill Donaval before. Then all of a sudden they're like, so we're so tired of this, we're not going to interrogate you, we're just going to let you die. And then they leave her in the sewer chained up, and the sewer starts flooding like you mentioned for the night. And she uses this new suit that she's wearing where like Spider-Man, like the blades come out of the end, and she ends up cutting herself out of the ties, not necessarily chains, and she ends up finding a ladder as like the water begins to rush up in the sewer, and this ladder leads to a grate, but the grate is like rusted shut and it won't open, and she's like hollering, and Sam, who has been searching for her, arrives, and he's like trying to pull the grate up, but it's rusted shut so hard, and so it's not opening up. And Selena, this was like a scary moment. She prepares to die, and she prepares to die by drowning, which seemed kind of fitting to her because technically she should have died years ago on the river, potentially by drowning before Arabin actually saved her.
Mm,
And then she asks Sam in like this sweet way. She's like, Sam, please take my body home to Terracin.
I know. That was such a,
I was
I
like,
don't
oh
know. It
gosh.
was like so heartbreaking at the same time, but also I'm like, you know that this boy's last words to you would be, I love you.
Yeah. She's like, take me home to Terracin. That's like a Gone with the Wind moment. It's like, as God is my witness, I will never go hungry again. Tara, take me back to Tara.
Oh my goodness. All right, chapter 8. Sam to the rescue. He conveniently saves Celaena with the help of two ladies who conveniently had a crowbar. Sweet moment with this evident relief that she's alive and he's realizing that he almost lost her. Celaena obviously feels absolutely vile and takes multiple baths, even one in liquor, to burn the filth off her skin. Sam comes into her bedroom and reveals that he went to find her despite what she told him and risked everything to find her, hearing her screams. Celaena thanks him and apologizes for what happened in Skulls Bay. This is another sweet moment where like they're growing even closer. They're being vulnerable. And Sam is like, I would never expect an apology from Celaena Sardathian. She's like, I'm
Hmm.
sorry. Like
Yeah.
genuinely, I'm sorry. She
Yeah.
wasn't like being snarky. So she's growing. So I love a good deep talk after a near death experience. Like that's one of my favorite tropes because I'm like,
Yeah.
the relationship's getting there. We're closer to a kiss, guys.
Yeah.
And then Celaena says that she just added one more name to her kill list.
And that's the head of the guard there.
Yep.
And then when they're sharing their sweet moment, I felt like, she also began to open up about and the betrayal that she felt between what she would call like her best friend that she developed, Ansel, and sharing that with Sam. And I think that that was like a really vulnerable moment for her to be like, hey, like I was completely blindsided by someone that I thought was my best friend. And like that's totally out of like her character, I'm
Mm,
tough, I know everything, I'm the baddest bee alive. And
right.
so she tells him that, she was bamboozled. And so
And he
that was
keeps
like,
looking at her neck, like, where did that scar come from? And she didn't tell him before, but now she's telling him now.
because she was, embarrassed,
Hmm.
I'd say. So definitely a really big bonding moment for them. Obviously, and she's like, I almost died. I saw the light.
Yeah.
And so then chapter 9, Selena's like, I am done. She meets with Arabin and is like, here's the money that the master of the silent assassins gave me for saving his life. She's like, I want to keep working with you. Like, I respect you, but you don't own me anymore. And then that's that. And Arabin's like, oh, I wish this day would never come, and yada, yada, yada. And he seems like very genuine and sweet. Sus. And then Celaena and Sam later on, they go back to the sewer, a little PTSD moment, and they want to find a sewer entrance to Donoval's house that she saw while she was sitting there tied up. And then Sam's like, I'm leaving in 2 weeks. I'm gonna go to Eelway and I'm not coming back. And she's like, no, why are you doing that? Why are you leaving? And he says that, well, like while you were gone, Arabin stopped giving me jobs and he's kind of demoted me and he's made me just help Lysandra out with her bidding stuff. And he was like, and you're okay now, Celaena. Like, I can leave knowing like that you're safe now. And then he tells her that he loves her. And he's like, and I'm leaving because I know that you would choose Arabin over me any day. And she was like, you're a fool, Sam. I would choose you over Arabin any day.
Yep.
And they kiss in the
Yeah.
sewer.
Yeah. This was where I was like, the interesting place for your first kiss, but to each their own. Celaena shares, chapter 10, excuse me. Celaena shares her first kiss with Sam. And again, they're sharing this romantic and intense experience that they explore for hours, seeming to forget that they're making out in a sewer of all places. But again, to each their own. When they finally leave, Celaena reflects on Sam's feelings for her, and she kind of feels bad for how she treated him before. Rightly so. She was mean.
Hmm.
This kiss is pivotal in their relationship, but she also kind of says she would slaughter anyone if they were to hurt him. Is that kind of foreshadowing something later? Maybe. Sam and Celaena then make a plan for Donabal's demise. Celaena successfully sneaks into his house and then finds the documents that she is looking for. Realizing how many lives are on the line, she is then determined not to let Donaval get his hands on them or his client. And she's about to put them back when she hears some voices.
So in chapter 11, she immediately hides in the armoire with these papers, and then two men come in just a few minutes later, and Celaena, they kind of talk a bit, and then Celaena jumps out and immediately attacks them. Donovan is killed immediately, and the other guy starts to run off, and she runs into the main guard going to follow him, who then sees that there's like blood, and he's like, what have you done? And she goes to kill the guard, and he's like asking like if hired her. So he was always kind of suspicious of her, and then says that Donovan loved his country, and she kills him, kills the guard then. And she then catches up to this other man who's part of the deal, who immediately burns the papers, curses her, and then immediately kills himself. And she sees some of the papers, which she's like taken the flames out of, and she's looking at them, and she realizes that they are the addresses to safe houses for slaves in Otterland, which doesn't make sense to her because she's confused as to why he would kill himself over papers that they were going to release over to the bad guys anyways. And she's like, well, these papers are bad. They need to be burned. Like, no one should know where these safe houses are. So she goes ahead and she burns those papers.
Yep. Chapter 12, Celaena is meeting with Arabin and she confronts him, saying Donoval's partner destroyed the documents before taking his own life with poison. Arabin then taunts her for leaving a mess, saying that she doesn't do this normally and, you know, she made mistakes after mistake, and saying that she is not getting paid because there's no body for proof and only half of the documents. Arabin reveals he duped Celaena once again and tells her that the real reason for the documents was because Donovan was working against the slave trade while he and Leifer, he being Arabin, were using it for profit. He also lets Celaena know that he used her freedom money to win Lysandra's virginity at the bidding auction. This is the biggest slap in the face for Celaena because she has endured years of just abuse, and both like emotional and physical abuse from this man. And she has been saving up to have her freedom, to be free from this man.
And he
And
spent it
when she
all in
finally
one
has
night
this
on
money,
her.
he blows it on a night with a woman.
That's her enemy.
That's her enemy. Like, ugh. Celaena, of course, is furious. She then tells him that she's moving out and is finally free of him. She then also buys Sam's freedom with the money she got by selling her horse, Casita. Celaena then runs into Lysandra, who obviously taunts her about the money, and then Lysandra gets a dagger thrown at her, rightfully so. Not a good time to mess with our girl. Later, Sam finds her on the roof, which when she's lost in thought about her newfound freedom, and they share a moment where Sam thanks her and devotes himself to her, promising he will always be by her side forever. And this is where I'm like, oh, I know what's coming.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Yeah. So
Oh,
that is the end of episode 2. Please let us know your thoughts, feelings, emotions on social media, Main Character Syndrome Pod. For now, to the readers who listen, we'll see you later.
bye everyone.